It starts very high and it keeps going. Some days it's all up and down. Up. All right, check this out, you guys. Monday morning. Stock market is apparently fabulous. I mean, just absolutely off the charts. You know, Amazon is plus $13 in the green. Google is up $8. Netflix up $8. Tesla is up about $3. Cat's up about $3.15. Apple's up about $2. Nvidia 90 cents. Yeah, you keep dropping. You keep dropping, Nvidia. I know all about your dirty little secret, Nvidia. You keep dropping. You're not faking me out. And then, of course, gold is rising. Gold seems to rise with the market. It's very peculiar. But the market seems to be heading down now. It always starts up. The market's weird, you know. It's weird. Some days it starts very high and it keeps going. Some days it's all up and down, up and down, up and down. Some days it starts really low and then it works its way up. So, Facebook, I just got up, sorry. Facebook is up a mere 70 cents. So I have a feeling Facebook and Nvidia are going to fall on their face pretty soon. Pretty soon. Facebook is actually new 52-week high, and they say that Zuckerberg is bypassing the ice cream man. You know, the guy who eats ice cream, you know, what's his name? You know, the rich guy, the old bastard that eats ice cream. Anyway. But look at this. So bizarre diplomatic sonic attacks, they're saying. Now, I'll be the first one to say I don't think these are sonic attacks, but reaching epidemic proportions. They started in Cuba with 200 illnesses spreading to other countries. But they say sonic attack, but look at what they show. So frequencies, modulations, you know, tones, beamed into your head. The right frequency can do anything. Literally, the right frequency can give you a heart attack. It can make you feel sick. It can make you sick. So it started in the fall of 2016. The diplomats reported hearing loss, mild brain damage after hearing unusual and puzzling sounds at the U.S. Embassy in Cuba. But now it's spreading to embassies in other countries with nearly 200 people affected. The State Department is virtually mum, other than to characterize their suspicion as unknown sonic attacks targeted U.S. diplomats. Some of the strange sounds have been recorded and released to the public. The victims' symptoms include hearing loss, dizziness, tinnitus, or whatever, that's ringing of the ears, balance problems, visual difficulties, headaches, fatigue, cognitive issues, and sleeping problems. What's behind the mysterious sonic attacks? Sound off in the WND poll. Well, this is basically the same technology that they have going up in these 5G towers. So, you know, whatever you want to call it. Sonic attack, frequencies, whatever. It's a weapon, all right? And they're using it. And, you know, it seems like we were the R&D of making all these incredible weapons. And then we had politicians who just nonchalantly just sold us down the river. Gave all the technology, including the internet, away. And, you know, sold us down the river. Recently, the AP reported 26 Americans have been medically confirmed to have been injured in the wave of attacks. Diplomats who have served in at least 7 cities in 4 countries have sought testing. The latest incident occurred in conjunction with President Trump's recent visit with Kim Jong-un. As Trump was heading to Singapore for the historic summit with North Korea leader, a State Department diplomatic security agent who is part of the advance team reported hearing unusual sounds he believed was similar to what was experienced by U.S. diplomats in Cuba and China, who later became ill. So is the CIA running around, like, you know, just trying to cause all kinds of stuff? I mean, who is this? Is China doing it? Or is this New World Order just doesn't want people to get along? You know, so they're just basically taking out diplomats. Remember in Obama's, like, last year, how many diplomats were dying? Russian diplomats? I mean, to me, this seems like they want a war. The agent immediately underwent medical screening, part of a new U.S. government protocol established to respond to such potential health incidents anywhere in the world. And while the president was flying to Southeast Asian city, The U.S. delegation preparing for his arrival was exchanging urgent messages with the State Department's headquarters back in Washington, including the agency's diplomatic security and the U.S. Secret Service. The AP reported 4 U.S. officials confirmed it was a false alarm, but there is a heightened awareness among security officials as the White House prepares to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. They're going to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. People are sonic attack. I'm telling you, they could do this to anybody. And they probably are doing this to... Look, I actually think it's kind of almost like a juke, because one of the things they can do is they can put out stories that you go, oh, these are, what, this is the way it is, and it's totally not the way it is. You know what I mean? Or they know that there's something out there that leaked, and they could reproduce it, fake it, and then people in their head would be like, oh, that's photoshopped, when there really is a picture. Like, when I was looking at Obama, I was like, what would be the chances? Like, why would they want that out there? They do stuff like this. Like, don't think that these intelligence agencies are stupid. They are really smart. You know what I'm saying? They are really smart. Now, when they're it seems like when they are committing evil, they do dumb stuff because they have to like stall and do kind of weird stuff, and like, you know what I mean? Like, look, Vegas, for example. Like, you have these cops just like kind of looking down the stairway, and it's like, why? What are you doing? You know what I mean? Or you have like the cop outside Parkland, like kind of just like, what to do? Like, so it's really coming down to, are you part of good or evil? I mean, are you part of the cover-up, or are you part of cleaning up America and making it great again? This chick looks sketched. Well, I thought she was like some Russian spy. That's where my mind's at. All right, suspicions of Russian involvement in the attacks were raised last September when an unnamed USAID officer and his wife were flown out of Tashkent, Uzbekistan, for evaluation after they reported events that echoed what happened in Havana. The State Department later said it isn't going to discuss every case individually. We can confirm that there was no incident in Uzbekistan, a State Department official added. The U.S. has issued an alert warning Americans traveling to China to seek medical attention if they experience auditory or sensory phenomenon, similar to what was reported in Havana. And the State Department recommended anyone traveling to Cuba should reconsider their plans. Since reporters first blindsided spokesperson Heather Narrett with questions about incidents last August, the State Department has been reluctant to give on-the-record details about its investigation. It still refers to these cases as specific attacks without saying what is specifically happening. There she is again. Yeah, so they're basically just not saying, we're in a war. I mean, China said they were going to finish it off. They were going to bring us into the New World Order. And they're running around. Things are falling out of space. Things are getting weird. Let me know what you think. Look at NVIDIA rising. And look at Facebook.
Good morning, people. It is Monday, the 9th of July. It is Monday all fucking day, okay? And this is your Shut the Fuck Up. It's always on the nights when I really can't sleep well that I see the most irritating things. So, and this one's, near and dear to my heart, actually. But, it was a Facebook post from somebody posting an article from, I believe, September of 2017, last year, about how the Trump administration says companies can fire people for being gay. And then there's all that faux LGBT outrage. Oh, please. You know what? Shut the fuck up. Let's just talk some serious turkey here, okay? Now, in 1994, I was working for a company called Millipore. In 1994, I was also the 6th Congressional District Coordinator for the Human Rights Campaign. In 1994, I took on responsibility for getting people to sign on to the ENDA program, the ENDA legislation, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which would effectively add gender identity and sexual orientation to workplace protections. Okay? 1994. Been banging around Washington for 20 fucking years. So the next time someone tells me the gay and lesbian struggle hasn't been the same as the black struggle, don't bother talking to me. But I'll tell you something else. The people of color know how to get things done. Gays and lesbians, we're too busy having pride parades and walking around half naked and partying. Because we think just because we can get married and be miserable now like heterosexuals that all of our equal rights work is done. Oh, except that little thing about keeping your fucking job. Where are all the gays and lesbians on that one? I haven't seen any movement, have you? I haven't seen a goddamn thing. Which is why I no longer support the Human Rights Campaign or any other gay and lesbian organization that wants my gay money. And I don't see gay people demanding it either. Again, I don't see anybody demanding anything in this nation. So the notion that any of these people are afraid of any of us is ridiculous on its face. You know something? The best opportunity to pass the Employment Non-Discrimination Act was the window of opportunity that Barack Obama had in 2010, when he had swept his ass into the presidency and taken both the House and the Senate with him. Right there. You managed to get the Affordable Care Act passed, which was not health care reform in any sense of the word. It was a gift to the corporations, frankly. Right? You had an opportunity to pass ENDA then. Did ya? What were the gays and lesbians doing after Obama got elected? Jumping up and down over a guy who said in 2008 when he was running that he couldn't support gay marriage because of his religious beliefs. But you're all jumping up and down like a bunch of fucking yahoos. Wake up. Obama left the door opened for Donald Trump to do this. I'm not the only person that shares that opinion. The door has been left open. And it was left open by the Democrats. Bill Clinton was another one. Made all of us all those big promises, and then what did he give us? Don't ask, don't tell, and DOMA. What a great fucking guy. Because you know what? If he hadn't signed that legislation, according to Hillary, the Republicans could have made it a whole lot worse for us. How's that? You know what? I don't understand what it takes to get my brethren to wake up and stop dancing with the devil. The Democrats haven't done a goddamn thing for you, except use you in a game of identity politics. See, we support gays and lesbians, do they? But no, they don't. Because guess what? The Democrats had nothing to do with gay marriage. You know who had everything to do with gay marriage? The people who were courageous enough to sue for it, stand up next to their partners, and see it through all the way to the end. And groups like the American Foundation for Equal Rights and GLAAD, who went with them every step of the way, they get the credit for gay marriage. Not the Democratic Party, and certainly not Barack Hussein Obama. Oh, please, people, don't make me gag. You all need to shut the fuck up. You can thank your Democratic brethren who are so supportive of the gay and lesbian community for leaving us in the lurch like this. So let's talk about the reality of what protections we do have. Okay? Let's look at it. Maybe we could take it on a state-by-state basis. These are the states of the Union where we are protected based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Washington, Oregon, California. Hold on. Nevada, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Maryland, okay? Now, no statewide protections in any of these states. Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, West Virginia, South Kakalaki, that's South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and that's that. Some protections for public employees only, as if they're different than just the average fucking employee. Oh, public employees because they're employed by the government, and not anyone else because, God help us, if corporate America had to, be held accountable. Some protections for public employees only in the following states: Alaska, Montana, Arizona, Missouri, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Virginia, okay? These two charmers prevent passage of or enforcement of local LGBT non-discrimination laws. So there we have gone to court or whatever they've done to block having to follow those laws. These two charming states. Ready? Arkansas. Yeah. Inbred and undead. Tennessee. Yeah. And this is one. This one state blocks local non-discrimination laws but protects some LGBT public employees. Which ones? The people whose names begin with the letters A to F? Maybe they do them for half the year, and then the rest the second half of the year. North Carolina. So forward-thinking. Inbred and undead. And these states protect people based on sexual orientation only, no gender identity. Wisconsin, New Hampshire. I was wondering where those charming people were. There you go. I meant to say, by the way, full protection, I forgot Hawaii. They are there as well. Okay? So, that's the lay of the land, okay? And whether people want to accept this fact or not, not only did Barack Obama not get into past, but at least during his first term, he actually had his Justice Department go in and defend draconian laws based on pedophilia. He, of course, didn't do that in the second term because he had evolved on gay marriage by then. You know what? I'm tired of all you apologists. You want to keep kissing this guy's ass. You want to keep envisioning Hillary Clinton as the great champion of gay and lesbian civil rights. You go ahead and live that illusion. None of these people give a shit about you. Nobody has ever given us any civil rights. Not whether you're a person of color or whether you're a gay and lesbian transgender person. No one's ever given you anything ever in this country. People have demanded it. And the reason we don't have this is nobody demanded it. Because you're all too busy partying. It's time to evolve and grow up. You know, when I first started going to gay pride parades, it was about having a good time, but it was also about civil rights. And they weren't just, mind-numbing, thumping disco beats coming down the street. They actually had speeches, political speeches, by actual people, not talking heads like Marty Walsh. It used to be, or they were supposed to be in the spirit of Stonewall. That's bullshit. Nothing we do in a gay pride parade today is in the spirit of Stonewall. What happened at Stonewall was a real battle for civil rights. That was a real battle. Our gay pride parades aren't about that. They're not. Now you've got an unpopular person like Trump, so you can pick on him. But maybe you ought to look in the mirror at yourselves, because you don't make any demands. You think marching in a parade every year on the same date with your politicians in tow is making a statement? It's not. It's a joke. The joke's on you folks. So shut the fuck up and figure out what activism really does look like. The reason we aren't protected in the workplace is because we didn't demand it. We haven't been demanding it. I started this bullshit in 1994. It is 2018. In 24 years, with honest to God, with the majority of the time in the last quarter of a century being owned by the Democrats in the White House, we couldn't get this thing passed. So I don't know what you're expecting. You leave a door open like that, and someone's going to go through it, whether it's Donald Trump or the next asshole you put in. So shut the fuck up.
The mother of a missing Indigenous girl in Canada, Danita Faith Big Eagle, is suing the police for not doing their job.
All of a sudden I heard noise and looked out the window, and she was getting hauled off by 3 men in a black truck. All my children that I was babysitting and her children saw that. So I phoned the police and told them, you know, how come you pick up my daughter? What'd she do, and when are you going to let her go? They said, phone back, phone back, phone back. Hour, 2 hours, the next day. Then they told me she wasn't there. They never did anything. Like, after I saw that, I told them, I think, like you guys took her. What'd you do with her? And they were saying, she's not here, so it couldn't have been us. And I kept going back there, and I started accusing them. You know, are you guys taking girls? Because if you are, you know, I'm going to make sure that you guys pay for that.
Meanwhile, according to a Canadian police report, in just 2014, 164 Indigenous women went missing. The report of 2015 shows the number grew to 174.
It's a tragedy that doesn't seem to end. Girls are still going missing, like women and girls, and that scares us. I think they think we're easy prey, you know, we're something they can just help themselves too, like take advantage of, and it's gotta be, you know, I can't think of any other reason. They must think we're prey. They want something to chase, something to hurt, something to kill, and that's us.
Now, this has led to activism. The Women's Memorial March is held annually in different Canadian cities to commemorate those murdered or missing. The event's goal is also to call attention to the problem, and particularly to cases involving Native women. The mother of missing Danita Big Eagle says that, unfortunately, Indigenous women are attacked more frequently. Now, we asked the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to comment on Big Eagle's case. No comment yet, excuse me. But Laura Lee Williams, who also lost a family member, says that attackers choose Native women as their victims because they know that little will be done by police.
We're targeted because nobody, the predators, know that nothing will be done about it. They know that they can get away with it. Throughout my childhood, or just all my life, I grew up around my family, seeing them, how much pain they were in, missing their loved one. She's my mom's sister. So I saw the pain it caused in my family, and to this day. So I know all the flaws, especially with the RCMP. I find it harder to work with the RCMP myself, and I see where all the flaws are. I see where it's at. I mean, there's another case, 36 Indigenous women came forward with allegations against the Quebec Police Department, and they said they were sexually assaulted, but nothing happened.
One of my central themes is that we're being uprooted, but a consequence of that is that we're increasingly hybrids. We've lost our homogeneous stock that we once were. North Korea is the most homogeneous genetic state there is. But about homogeneous genes, it goes back before statehood. It goes into our tribal past. And you try to join the dots with other aspects that we're living through. One is this rise of cancer and general ill health, and it seems to be affecting hybrids more than others. Hybrids is me, and maybe you, I don't know. But hybrids is when you walk down the street in London or New York and everybody looks different. And you also see within tribal communities and within Asia, you see the bodies are in proportion. They all look pretty similar. And I think they're more resistant to diseases, contrary to what we are told. It's unfortunately just a very sensitive topic because it's been all clouded with politics, and we've got absurd politics of liberal left-wingers perpetuating wars and humanitarian intervention, and the nonsense is what we're supposed to make sense of. They're certainly not pacifists, but other topics I'd like to go through is I saw the Sheikh yesterday on video. He does a Sunday video every Sunday, and he was talking about usury, and one of the points he was making is the money doesn't circulate when you have interest. It keeps going back to those that have money. So the wealth disparity continues, if not gets worse. I thought that was very poignant. And of course you add to that inheritance and other issues, how the rich have got a club of their own, and we're more or less in a caste system. We're raised to think we're in freedom and prosperous, and you look around and you know otherwise. I think people are really afraid to talk these days. In England it's pretty difficult to get people to talk openly, you know. People are afraid. So much for freedom. In some crazy way, if you've got a blog or something, you're allowed to say a little more. But people are generally recoil in fear. See, throughout history we've had belief systems. Invariably it's not just it's religion. People of different faiths, different belief systems. And if you came across someone of a belief system, you kind of know the limits, the parameters, their behavior. You got some idea of what they're about. And that is still true. You might meet someone who follows the Jewish faith, or a Muslim, or a Christian. And you can make basic assumptions on how you can deal with them, what to expect, and what might develop. But you come across someone who is secular. It's not doomed. You can certainly develop a trusting relationship. But at the same time, it's all unknown. It's a loose cannon. It could go anywhere. And unfortunately, if you meet someone like that, you might just recoil and say, no, I'm afraid. You're an unknown. I've no idea what it could lead to. You could betray me. But with the religious, you can feel a bit more trusting. You know, one of the tenets of religion is children, of course, families. That's what it's built around. And our New World Order seems very against the family, breaking them up at every juncture. But I also was very fearful of starting a family, and due to my own upbringing, and also due to a fear of economics, the cost of it all. And people told me, they said, no, well, once you have children, you just work harder, you find the way to go, or you survive. And it's proving true so far. I've got a boy almost 3, and I work hard, and I never thought I'd be able to really support him. There's so much awful poverty now in the West, and the cost of supporting a family. I mean to say, that's one of the major reasons that stopped me doing it, and the other is just, you know, fear of the trauma that one experiences themselves in childhood. If you come from a broken family, it all depends how you take it. But I think I think the children take it pretty badly. And, you know, I guess you could argue it kind of makes a man out of you having children. It fills up the missing points that you've never used before. You rise to the challenge. And to see someone growing and developing and somewhat affectionate towards you is pretty extraordinary. Of course, one of the prices to pay is being exhausted, because there's always something that needs to be done. And another cost is walking on things barefoot. There's always things on the floor. Never happened before, but now you're forever standing on things. It's a real miracle, and that's what the religious term is for giving birth. They say it's a miracle. But if you can manage to have a family, it's a lot more important than these careers. But you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. I think it will enrich you. It's quite a conservative line I'm preaching at this time, and really I grew up radical and non-conventional, non-conservative, and I don't think I would have ever praised the family, probably because I didn't have the experience of praising one. But what they're doing now to all of us, they're destroying all hopes of bonding together. What we do have is deference to same-sex relationships shoved at us from morning till night, every day of the week, on every form of media. In England, you cannot speak against the gay identity. Not as a politician, not as a business. A small guest house refused a couple of men, didn't want them sleeping together in their guest house. They got in trouble, they had to go to court. And as an individual, it's the same. And it's tied to foreign aid. Britain has tied the rights of homosexuals to foreign aid. Well, Britain is a Zionist colony. It's been fighting wars for Israel for years and years and years, isn't it? And with all those millions of tons of bombs that have been dropped, mostly by America, all the refugees have flooded in, and they're just causing so much friction that it's a recipe for a big, big mess. Well, that's it. I finish today. Maybe I made you think, maybe I didn't, maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. I get the normal, otherwise I get the normal link sent to me, and oh, that's from the Mossad, that's from the CIA, that's from MI5, all the paid-for intel agents. That's all there is out there. And don't think that's unique or amazing. It was the same in East Germany, it was the same in the Soviet Union. There's nothing unusual about it. That everyone is spoken for and paid. Okay, I finish. Thanks a lot for listening. Please send a donation along if you can. Here, you can look at some people playing around. But listen, I got nothing yesterday. Zero. Absolutely nothing. So if you can help, please do. This looks like a banyan tree. Banyan trees are holy in India, and their branches become roots. I think these are edible plants in the pond. Pond is the best word for it. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
And I know that Julian wanted to stop wars, but believe me, there are far more terrifying things going on than the wars that go on. I mean, I was talking to Elizabeth about this when, after I spoke with her, I was tweeting back and forwards with her on the whole eugenics program going on this planet, which is killing. Their hope is to kill billions of people, which far outperforms any war. And again, you know, it almost like causes my brain to just sort of go and just stop when I try to think
the size
about
of it, the size
well,
of
the size
the
of it, but yeah, but also that thing that Hannah said, that the one thing that outdoes the lie is the reality. There's no substitute for that. So while we still have the internet, and you know, I'm amazed. I watch a lot of things on YouTube, and I'm going, my God, I'm amazed that's on there. There's still the chance to get this truth out, and for people to start, you know, taking action, because that's what they depend on. They depend on a socially engineered, you know, lied to on every possible imaginable level. I think really, really wicked people, deep, deep, deep down, they are good beings and they know they're doing terrible things. And as long as they keep altering reality for themselves and justifying their actions to themselves, which is, you know, frankly, the guardians at this point are those who have been educated in Harvard and, you know, Yale and Cambridge and Oxford, where they, remember, Plato's Utopia wanted the rulers to buy into the one royal lie as well. And so the promise of power, you know, this is honestly, this is all about seduction. I just think that unless many of us just do away with, you know, the reality as it's presented and actually focus on what we know is important and what we know is true, which is why this vigil is a beautiful platform for anyone in order to join in and watch, or anyone who's a guest on or part of the vigil. It's our opportunity to sing out the eternal song of consciousness and to bring about, even if it's just between each other, the happiness and the joy that comes from knowing when you're doing something right. Now, I know plenty of people, you know, spin out this thing of like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But really, I would say that that phrase identifies more than anything else that that's true, because we don't have enough information, and we don't have enough information because we are controlled to within an inch of our lives in terms of the access we have. I think also of Hannah Arendt. Do you know Hannah Arendt? Have you ever heard of her?
You are now the third person
really?
to mention her. Chris Hedges mentioned her, Mehdi Taleb just mentioned her, and now you are. But I suspect that all three of you will do so in a different context.
This woman, she has the most piercing intellect. I've read her book on the Eichmann trial and the banality of evil, and it is truly an awesome piece of work, and also her book on totalitarianism. But this happens to be titled Crisis of the Republic, Lying in Politics, Civil Disobedience. Sorry, it's like practically black, the screen on the top, so I can't read the bit. But anyway, this is so pertinent. Lies are often much more plausible, more appealing to reason than reality, since the liar has the great advantage of knowing beforehand what the audience wishes or expects to hear. He has prepared his story for public consumption with a careful eye to making it credible, whereas reality has the disconcerting habit of confronting us with the unexpected, for which we were not prepared, which frankly I think Edward Snowden, the revelations of Chelsea Manning, and all the other stuff that, you know, WikiLeaks has brought to the world, and of the journalists that took advantage of it and reported on it accurately, it brought those lies out to the forefront for humanity, for those that were willing to look at it. And I think it made it very difficult for people because they found it so hard to believe that they'd been so horribly tricked. But anyway, let me go on. Under normal circumstances, the liar is defeated by reality, for which there is no substitute. No matter how large the tissue of falsehood that an experienced liar has to offer, we live on a planet of spiritually buried beings, so buried in their consciousness that they take part in actions which I truly believe that if they really were in their right mind, if they really had a raised awareness, they would not do it. They would not do the things they're doing. And, you know, that whole, I remember that from being a child, those posters of, you know, women holding flowers out to soldiers, and it's saying, if they gave a war and you didn't come, you know, there wouldn't be one, or something like that. The soldiers part of Plato's Utopia, right? They are some of the men and women that I have the most like charged up emotions about, because they take the most, I think many of them, the most honorable and also the most misguided positions on the planet. And the fact is, the guardians couldn't do a bloody thing without the soldiers and the police and all the bureaucrats that are holding the whole thing up.
Yeah, I don't understand, you know, people that did decide to, and I understand why someone decided to support Hillary, and I'm not into voter shaming. I feel like it's just not going to get us anywhere. But why would you then use that as a reason to hate his son? I mean, why would you shoot the messenger? And some conversations that I had back on the campaign trail, first cup of coffee, folks, back on the campaign trail with some of my colleagues that were Hillary supporters who, you know, again, we agree on most things strategically. There's a couple things that we saw differently and still do. But why shoot the messenger? And what I asked people was, I said, why didn't the Clinton campaign confront what was in those emails? Why didn't they just confront it? I mean, honestly, there's ways that Hillary, and again, those emails were not pretty. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like, oh, what's the big deal? Like, no, it exposed a lot. But why didn't she just confront it and just say, I mean, she could have just said something like, look, you need somebody who knows how to play the game with these people, whether you like it or not. Where we're at right now, we've been a very business-friendly, bank-friendly country for a while now. Obama's done that. If we don't kind of continue that to some degree, you know, there's no way we have a chance of winning and you'll get Trump. I mean, she totally could have done that, and it would have won a lot of people over, enough that I think she would have won the election. You know, if she just would have confronted it and just kind of wore that practical badge over. And I'm not saying I agree with that stance. I'm just saying politically what she could have done. Instead of just demonizing the messenger. When you demonize the messenger, that means you have no counter argument. So what the Clinton campaign proved to me, and I think proved to the rest of the country, was that they had no counter argument. And maybe like the general person might not have seen it that way directly, but I think indirectly that was in people's psyches when they went to vote. You know, like wow, what did WikiLeaks tell us? They told us the truth, and the Democratic Party would rather shoot the messenger than either own their mistakes and apologize, own the content, and explain themselves. You know, they chose to do none of that. We talk about how valuable WikiLeaks is. I actually don't think that's accurate. I would use the word essential, because when we live in a world where you have, you know, I mean, I think Chris Hedges said something like this. I'm paraphrasing him, but he said, you know, we live in a world where our news organizations hate journalism, or something to that effect. And he's absolutely right. I mean, a lot of the stuff you see, and now granted, the corporate media has such a large, wide umbrella. There are some pieces of good work that slip through the cracks. It's just inevitable that something like that will happen. So it's not really interesting to dissect everything that gets published in a single day. But as a whole and structurally, there is a blatant conflict of interest 101 going on with these organizations, to the point where the bulk majority of what they amplify for the people is not news. It is public relations. It is by the book public relations. It is by the book propaganda. Whether it's something that helps the war machine, whether it's something that helps oil and gas, which is a lot of what they put out there. They ignore every social movement. You know, you go on MSNBC and you see Rhodes Scholars pretend to not understand net neutrality. Why do they do that? Because Comcast signs their paycheck. You know, you can go down and look at every single, for instance, when we live in a world where most our major news organizations, the one that still have the power and the largest microphones, are PR agencies, literal PR agencies. I mean, the media structure in the United States is so disgusting. And, you know, and I studied this stuff in college. That's part of what led me to, you know, whatever I am now. That's part of what led me to all this. You know, like I studied the media reform movement. I studied the media structure. We have gotten more disgusting than I ever could have anticipated. And I dedicated my entire academic life to studying this stuff. And, you know, I find it interesting, incredibly interesting, but it's also incredibly destructive. And you know, you look at other countries, you look at the UK, you look at Canada, their media structures certainly have their problems. I'm not here to say the BBC is perfect or the CBC is perfect. They're not. They're far from it. But comparatively speaking, what we've done in the United States, I think is just repulsive beyond comprehension. It is poison to the idea of democracy. Yeah, the DNC was a big one. I mean, that's just because that really, and it wasn't just, you know, WikiLeaks certainly helped, but I mean, it was also just seeing the behavior of the DNC throughout that primary season, and all of your worst suspicions came true. You know, all of my worst suspicions come true. I mean, as long as I've been cognizant and politically awake, or whatever you want to call it, you know, I never really identified with the Democratic Party. I always felt like I was to the left of them. But for a long time, I felt like, well, they're the clearest glass. They have people like Dennis Kucinich. They have, you know, who I supported in the 2008 primary. I wasn't even for Obama. But then slowly I realized, oh, wait, they try to cheat these people. These are the people they want to silence and put their thumb on as much as they can. And, you know, WikiLeaks really exposed that. And then, you know, another big thing, a lot of the stuff that came out about the military-industrial complex, a lot of the stuff that they published in relation to Edward Snowden, in relation to Chelsea Manning, you know, that really confirmed who's really running the show in the United States, what their agenda really is, and how truly morally repulsive and Orwellian it is.
What is it that you would like to say to Julian right now?
Well, I have prepared some words for Julian.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah. I knew you would ask me this question. Yeah, so I have prepared something for Julian. So first of all, I would like to tell him thank you. So I have a little message for him here. Thank you, Julian, for your courage and for revealing the truth, despite knowing full well the consequences. Like Jennifer Robinson, who was Julian's lawyer since 2010, since Cablegate and so on. She said recently that that actually Julian told her, we are about to reveal these documents, 250,000 documents of the US diplomacy. And the second message, if I may, if I had a little bit more time. So keep fighting. Like he said to so many people, to so many dissidents who were persecuted. Julian has always prioritized other people before him, you know. That's why it's very important for us to understand this and to understand that Julian will not defend Julian. Someone else needs to defend him. And that should be us, the supporters of Julian today. So keep fighting. And he has been fighting for 8 years now.
Everyone knows what a Democrat and Republican is in America. And if you want, on issues like abortion, oh, the Democrats are pro-choice and the Republicans are pro-life, and so on down the line. Now, if you ask people about populism, there's no populist agenda. And I think the people who got it right, actually, are the Italians, in the sense that the Five-Star Movement it became a political party, but it started off just as a movement. And so that's what I'm sort of hoping will happen, that someone will start to go, hey, this populist thing, let's try to codify all the people you've been interviewing, right? Could we make a list of like 5 things that they all agree on? Forget the things we don't agree on for a second, which will be issues of trade or some parts of immigration or whatever. Forget that. Are there 5 things we can agree on, like the rollback of the military-industrial complex, right? Everybody, right? Election reform, to have a democracy that actually functions and works, and that people can have some confidence in. I think everybody agrees on that. I think everybody agrees on issues of freedom, rule of law, some human rights stuff, not all. But you don't need everything, because if you had like this movement of people who could be like, I'm a Republican populist, and that means I adhere to these 5 principles, or I'm a Democrat populist, it means I adhere to these same 5 principles as this Republican. That's why, when I see someone like Ocasio Cortez, when I see what's happening with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's a leftist, right? But I'm, all right on, because she's anti-war. And
which is why so many people went from Bernie to Trump. They weren't going to Trump at all. They were attracted to the anti-war platform.
Eventually, WikiLeaks will publish something whoever you are, you don't like. Does that make sense? Like whoever you are. And that's the great thing about WikiLeaks. A friend of mine was talking about the WikiLeaks recent publication of ICE names and addresses. And this is a person who's pro-ICE, they're anti-illegal immigration. And I am too, but I said, I don't care. I said, I don't care. In a sense, that WikiLeaks published it because it had been censored. And that really does get back to the thing I said about information wants to be free. And that seems to be Julian's thinking. The modus operandi is, how can we get the information out in a responsible way, not just a blind dump, in an organized way, so people can research it, in a way people have access to the text, to attachments, to everything, to all the data in an organized way. And it really is revolutionary. And quite frankly, no one else is doing it.
And you know what? I spend a lot of time trying to get some attention for Julian. I spend a lot of time with Sean Hannity. I spend a lot of time with people that are really close in the inner circle, with his own son, Donald J. I'm messaging and talking to those people, and I'm reminding them what Julian has done for them. But they're not doing anything, because they're all scared. They're all little chickens that are scared of the NSA and the CIA and what they might do to them if they actually let the truth teller go free, So is Donald Trump really a president? When he said that he lost WikiLeaks, when he appreciated the truth coming out, but now he does nothing? What a hypocrite. What a liar. It's lies. It's like, who are you lying to us like that? And I think he is grateful for what WikiLeaks has done for him. But he doesn't have the balls to follow through and help the man who got him into the presidency. If it wasn't for Julian and the truth that he released about crooked Hillary, he would never have won. So how can you be so ungrateful? Just really do what you promised. Drain the swamp. You are now part of the swamp by doing these things against Julian. You complain about the fake news, but you are doing nothing to stop the fake news with the truth. That is what Julian does. Julian is the opposite of fake news. He is real news, real truth, facts, documents that have never been proven to be wrong. Any release of WikiLeaks is authentic and true. You know, how the hell can someone who screams about fake news all day long and makes a million tweets about that not support the one guy who's telling the world the truth? What a bloody idiot are you, Trump?
Right. And the other thing is, like, he could pardon him instantly. Like, it would be no problem.
He is scared. He is a pussy, Trump.
And
Trump is a pussy. He's scared. He should do the right thing, but he's scared. You know, just like any president before him. He is dealing with powers, with the deep state that are running things. Just look at him. They are making him jump through hoops. The Mueller investigation, what a joke. He has no real power. That is the truth. The president of the United States is a powerless little puppy who has to dance to the tunes of the deep state. Look at the show that they are pulling. And ultimately, I think they will impeach him. They'll get rid of him because he didn't have the balls and the courage to be bold like he told everyone. And, you know, everyone who voted for Trump needs to realize this. You can either make this point to him and say to him, look, you know, why are you doing this? We want to know the truth. We want to support you. And at the same time, we want to be able to be with Julian Assange because he is the guy who got our candidate elected. And now look how you're treating him. You know, it's ridiculous. Like, anyone who's supporting him needs to think about that and needs to understand that, you know, imagine you do that to a friend, you know, who has been helping you in your case, win your case by providing the truth and providing the evidence that made you win. You know, how would you feel if that person who did that all of a sudden, you know, you don't care about that person anymore and you go after him just like he's a dog? And you don't care about his health. You don't care about his well-being. This guy has children. He has a family. He has friends who love him, you know, and you keep him locked up in this little hole because you're putting him in a situation where he can't leave that place. So Donald Trump has reaped all the benefit of WikiLeaks and has said that he loved them and has said that, you know, this information was very helpful to him. And now look what he does. You know, he shits on Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, and he shits on the people that got him elected, you know, with the truth. And if you cannot stand up for WikiLeaks and Julian Assange simply because you are scared of all these intelligence community people and because of some senators in the US that are in the pockets of the NSA and CIA and running things in the background, you know, then you are really not the president that you made out to be. You lied to us when you said you are going to do something for the people here. You're going to, you know, be just. You're not just. You are just another extension of this bully network that has been doing all of this to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. When it comes to Donald Trump and WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, I am very disappointed in Donald Trump.
Me too.
When it suited him and his political campaign, he was the biggest fan of WikiLeaks. He stood up at his campaigning and told the crowd that he loves WikiLeaks. And he was pointing at the documents that WikiLeaks released that helped him. And how selfish is it of him to take all the benefit and become elected because of Julian's truth and WikiLeaks truth presented about the Hillary campaign, and then treat him like a dog, you have no respect anymore, Donald Trump. You told everyone you're going to drain the swamp and, you know, do the right thing for the people, but you're just another puppet of the deep state. You're probably scared of the CIA and the NSA, you know, that they will come after you if you don't do what they want, you know. So you become a sock puppet of those that have run US presidents for decades. You know, there's nothing happening here that would be acceptable or that you can call fair or just. He's not doing it for money. He's not doing it for fame. He does it because he believes that we deserve to know the truth, to make educated decisions about who we vote for and what we can agree with, you know, what the government is doing. So if we lose Julian Assange, we are fucked. There will be no one stepping in for him, you know? So if we fight for him now and we win for him, there will be other Julian Assanges. There will be more WikiLeaks. There will be more truth. So this is an epic battle that needs to be won. And everyone needs to understand this. You need to come and join us and fight for Julian. Because if we lose this fight, there's so much more we're going to lose. You don't even understand.
If you remember, during the time where there was a coup in Iraq, not before Saddam took office, he was egalitarian. He was trying to say, look, we're going to take the oil wealth, we're going to spread it, we're going to use it for the country itself. That was in Iraq. The United States, Britain, those countries freaked out because the guy who they had in at the time was a strong man who they knew was going to give them the oil at a decent price. They flipped out. The United States was one of the backers of the Ba'ath Party, which essentially helped Saddam get office. Same thing with Iran. Democratically elected government. Again, they took office, took issue because he wanted to use the oil wealth for himself. Or, I'm sorry, for the country itself, meaning he wanted to take a percentage of the oil wealth and get a higher percentage off of it than what he was getting from Britain. The CIA, the United States assisted in the coup. Democracy is messy. Democracy oftentimes is distrusted by people in authority because it's democracy after all. If you listen to the way they talk about quote unquote populism, oh, the populists, these people are populists. That's actually a good thing. Listen to Tony Blair, that crook who needs to be in a prison. I was listening to him this morning to talk about Brexit. I was shocked that Tony Blair was just walking about. Tony Blair needs to be in prison. But Tony Blair was like, same thing. The left, how do you say it? The left in Britain has been overtaken by a left-wing faction of the far left of the party. I love that. Yeah, they should be, because that's what Labour is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a left party. Same thing.
Exactly.
It's populism is not a bad thing, man. That's actually a good thing. The population get involved in the political process.
If Julian becomes the example of free speech being stifled and disrupted and a guy going to jail for telling us the truth, who else do you think is ever going to step in his feet? Who else is ever going to replace WikiLeaks or Julian Assange? Nobody. Everyone will be scared. And, you know, people need to understand what kind of man it takes to go through what Julian has been through. What a brave, courageous, amazing, strong man, you know, to go through all of this for all these years and stand up to this injustice and bullying and keep delivering the truth. There are very few people in this world that can do this.
And then you have this other part where he could have actually gotten out. It wasn't just Comey. It was Comey and what is Warner? I think it was Warner.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Essentially, hey, we can tell you definitively what happened. We can let you know what happened. And he's like, yeah, no.
That's not convenient. We'd rather not, you know.
We don't want to know that. We don't want to know that. We're perfectly okay with what we believe Russia did it. Just nothing to see here, folks. Yeah. It's amazing. That part's amazing. That part blew me away too. I mean, look, I don't either. You want to know what took place or you don't. And I think newspapers need to be very careful with this idea of allowing WikiLeaks to be considered, what is it, a non-state actor or a non-state editor or something to that effect.
I believe it was Mike Pompeo called them a hostile non-state intelligence service, and in the same breath, he then compared WikiLeaks with Al Qaeda. Literally, it's just
amazing,
mind-blowing.
New York Times, and the wild part about this is when they get leaks, it's perfectly okay. So I give you a perfect example. The recent leak that came out saying that North Korea had no intention of giving away or giving them nuclear weapons. That was a leak. That was a leak. That was a leak by the intelligence services. Nobody cared. Nobody took issue with that in the least. It was a leak, and everybody was fine with that particular leak. It seems that they pick and choose the leaks that they're okay with. That's what it seems like. That's exactly what it seems like. And you had inconvenient leaks. The previous president, I think his name is Correa. Is that I can't think. I'm missing the name. Yes. I may mix the name. But the previous president, Correa, the one who they're trying to bring up on charges now, that cat, he, however, had this very strong understanding of Ecuador as a country. We are an independent nation, just like any other independent nation. You will respect us as such. I respect him as such. I understand where he's coming from with it. The new president, not so much. And so there is a fear that the United States influence in that other country has been resumed with the new president and with the deal signed, or you can say the military agreement that they signed. That doesn't look good for Assange. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And so it looks a little weird that it looks like they're politically going after the guy who put Assange up, who has eventually protected Assange. We're angry that you protected Assange, so we're going to put our thumb on you with this guy, put our thumb in your eye.
And its only purpose was to get hold of Julian, to then extradite him to the United States. It's not about sexual matters or orientation or any of these other issues. It's about whether the United States deep state machine can get their hands on Julian Assange and silence him forever and punish him for the rest of his life, as they intended to do for decades with Chelsea Clinton, with Chelsea Manning, forgive me. They intended that we would never hear from her again until she was an old woman. And the same would be true of Julian. So sweep all these other things away. This is about the United States trying to punish Julian Assange, trying to silence Julian Assange. And he's already now, for the last few months, been silenced. He's being punished, of course, by his unjust incarceration by the British state. And people say to me all the time, this weekend, good comrades of mine said to me this weekend, look, why don't he just walk out? The answer is, if he walks out, the British will extradite him to the United States. If it was just walking out and facing whatever punishment there was for breaking bail conditions, of course, that would be a no-brainer. But as soon as he walked out, he'd be in British hands, and the United States would immediately demand his extradition to the United States to face indictments already prepared by secret grand juries, alleging espionage and all kinds of damage to the United States so-called security. But I knew from the beginning that Julian was being set up. He was being set up in a classic trap that has been played out. It's in the playbook. It's been used many times. And so I never doubted for one moment Julian Assange's bona fides, his integrity. And he's having to show that integrity now every single day in the situation he's in.
How do you think the public should fight for Julian Assange, other than watching these types of vigils and tuning in and sharing them? What are some of the ways they can actively empower themselves in fighting for Julian Assange and his freedom?
We need to never allow a piece of disinformation to pass unchallenged. So I have the best part of 2 million followers on social media. Whenever I see the utterly false allegation about Julian and Sweden and rape and so on, I never allow it to stand. I challenge it every time. Sometimes even our own supporters make mistakes in not challenging. Someone just the other day, one of our supporters on Twitter, said the Swedes had dropped the charges. There were no charges. He wasn't charged. They refused to come to London and interview him as part of their inquiry into him. That's all there was, even though they had done so many times, even with murder suspects. And of course, you don't need to be Einstein to work out why they didn't want to come to London to conduct an investigation, to have an interview with him. But what is more difficult to understand is how the useful idiots amongst the so-called liberal classes, the chatterati, who would normally be found on the side of whistleblowers, except when they're shopping them to the police and breaking up their hard disks, if you get my drift. How they have first abandoned, then turned on Julian Assange, shows them for what they really are, the conservative and liberal, two cheeks of the same backside, who in the end are loyal to the state we're in, when, as Dr. Cynthia was just saying, we'll never get out of the state we're in until we change the state we're in. And my goodness, Julian Assange has shown plenty of both.
Absolutely. And I think your point about the fact that he is bearing so much weight on behalf of everyone else, whether it's the whistleblowers that come to WikiLeaks or the public that benefits from the information that they publish, he is bearing the truth on his back.
And he's the one who's paying that price. The rest of us are at home with our families and enjoying life. And there's not a day goes by when I don't think of this Calvary which Julian is trapped in. And there's not a day in which indignation doesn't rise in my throat at the situation that he finds himself in.
The first time around, I talked about the impact that WikiLeaks had on me personally, because I'm a student of the COINTELPRO papers. I've read, there's thousands of them, that explain to us all of the things that our country did, that our government did. Well, those people who operate within and on behalf of the US government, they did to innocent US citizens as well as people abroad who were merely exercising their constitutional rights. There's thousands of pages, and I've read most of them. So I understand that government operatives will do anything in order to achieve what is defined as their goal, which might not be equivalent to our goal for our government. And definitely, so as I think about, and of course I had to have my dissertation scrubbed of all of my WikiLeaks references that I use, the kind of censorship that demonstrated, and that merely occurred because of the laws that are on the books in the US right now, mainly the Patriot Act, which will imprison a well, of course, we know not only librarians, but journalists as well who utilize certain information. And so because the Obama administration had prosecuted Barry Brown, the librarian said, oh, no, you got to take that out because, and then what we found was that not a single published dissertation had used WikiLeaks. Now, I hope that that circumstance has changed because WikiLeaks is a tremendous tool for those of us who want to tell the truth about what our governments are doing. And of course, the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet being the United States government, then of course it's incumbent upon us to know, as particularly as taxpayers, to know what the heck our government is doing in our name with our tax dollars.
Sean, what is your message for Julian? We are hoping, we know he can't watch this live with us, but we're hoping that eventually he will be able to see it. I know he's very grateful for the support and advocacy of everybody who has joined this event. But what would you like to say to Julian?
That, you know, regardless of what happens, you know, he has fundamentally changed the world in a way that, you know, I think is beneficial in the long term, on in the midterm. And that I think he deserves to be free. And I think regardless of what happens, you know, his work will carry on, and that they can't make him disappear.
Not so long as we are collectively his voice. Right. And I certainly hope that this event will continue to expand and grow as it has been over the last few months, and that ultimately we will be able to help Julian to get his communication back with the world, and that we will again hear his voice. Thank you so much for being here, Sean.
That's one of the amazing things. All these outlets and journalists that, you know, trash Julian all the time, they've reported on his leaks or his publications. He's been a great source for journalists for years now, and has, you know, contributed to some of the biggest stories in the world, not even just America, the world. And they're, you know, trashing him, but it's really counter to, you know, their own interests, because everybody has gotten good stories from WikiLeaks.
Definitely. And I think that, you know, and I've said this before during this vigil, but I'll say it again, you know, when people like Mike Pompeo call WikiLeaks a non-state hostile intelligence service, it's so inaccurate from multiple perspectives. And one of them seems to be the fact that, you know, WikiLeaks makes huge efforts not only to vet their information and the files they receive as accurate as real documents, but they also make sure to remove they redact names to protect people out in the field, and they also removed the harmful or the parts of malware, for example, in Vault 7 that could have been used to kind of put the weapons of Vault 7 in the hands of, you know, teenagers and everybody around the world. So they've been very careful in the way that they publish this information, which is overlooked by the press, by the Mike Pompeos of the world, and everyone else.
Right. And it's so funny because Mike Pompeo has tweeted positively about WikiLeaks before he joined the swamp. You know, everybody loves WikiLeaks until it doesn't benefit them anymore. And
so unfortunately true.
Published things that I disagree with recently, very recently, and I still recognize the importance of it, and I would never stop supporting them over it. And it's just crazy to me how people, you know, they love him one second and then they hate him the next. And I feel like they're just not getting the point.
what do you think some of like the viewers and listeners can do as acts of solidarity? How can they, express support for Julian at this time?
Well, one of the people that I interviewed yesterday had a great idea, which was writing to the Nobel Committee and urging them to give him the Nobel Peace Prize, which he should have won every year for the last 10 years anyway. I mean, realistically, because then instead of just being an imprisoned publisher, he'd be Nobel Prize winning publisher.
Absolutely.
And fight harder, because it's insane. I mean, this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous to begin with, but if we could get him more, awards and recognition, things like that. I hadn't really heard that idea before. I think that's a good one. Going on WikiLeaks shop, but I always say this, buying merch, wearing it out, start conversations, urge your local reporters to remember that this could happen to them. It could happen to anybody, depending on who's in power. If any journalist could get a great leak or scoop or something and be facing the U.S. government the same way Julian is, as if they're doing their job the way that they should be. So it's important to remind people that this could be them. They could be next. And by ignoring what's happening to Julian, they're kind of setting themselves up to be in this danger and in this situation, or their colleagues or friends. So I think that those are pretty good ways. We talk about petitioning government and public officials a lot, but I think that we also need to be pressuring the press to speak out, because they could be next.
Julian, we are with you. Julian, you are leading the main fight today. The main fight for peace is going on in the sphere of public opinion. You are our vanguard. You achieved a lot. Stay afloat. Keep fighting. We are behind you. If we are noisy, we won't let them do anything bad to you. And we will be noisy.
And we're getting more noisy every single month. Thank you so much, Dimitri, for being here and for being a part of this. Your voice counts, and it is really important. So thank you very, very much.
This is the same things that we saw in the Soviet Union. When Alexander Solzhenitsyn started campaigning for basically telling the whole truth, recognizing Stalin's repressions and their full scope, suddenly his colleagues, the writers, expelled him from their union. Well, first, it was, of course, not the writers, it was the authorities that wanted him expelled. And those same writers who greeted his first work when Solzhenitsyn was acting with permission from above, those same writers threw him out of the writers' union, right? And if you look, the stories of Assange and Solzhenitsyn are very similar, because, and the story of Snowden is also like that. Because what happened was that their opponents do not dispute the truth of what all three men reported. Brezhnev did not dispute that Stalin's concentration camps existed. He couldn't dispute that. It was indisputable. But he accused Solzhenitsyn of not coming to the government, not coming to the KGB with his doubts, with his problems. He was sending a message like, we would help you if only you came to us. Well, we had the same story repeating itself with Assange and with Snowden. That may remind you how the American press wrote about Snowden. I'm quoting one of the articles. Why didn't he go the congressional way? Why didn't he go to his CIA superiors? They would understand. They would help. Well, in what way they would help? They would take all of his data for themselves, and they put him in some safe location, a prison at best, or a mental asylum at worst. And that would be the end of the story, right? That's why Snowden went to the press. That's why he had to leave the United States. That's why he ended up in Russia. The same story with Assange. If he went the congressional way, if he went to the British government, if he went to Australian government, we know what the reaction would be. They would take all of his data and try to isolate him. It's just interesting how the so-called public went after Assange. I remember the article where Assange's name was first used in the negative context. I think it was written by Wesley Clark, the NATO general, the American general who commanded the Western invasion of Yugoslavia in 1999. Wesley Clark wrote that Assange is not a journalist, he is an activist, right? So the whole idea is that if you are an activist, you can operate in the media only in our interests. Our activists are good. Activists who don't agree with us, they are imposters. They're usurping the right that belongs only to our activists. They have to have a journalist ID if they, if they perform as journalists. They have to have other IDs if they perform as lawyers. Suddenly, you cannot be a citizen journalist. You cannot be a citizen lawyer. You basically cannot be an activist if you are acting against a Western project. And that's exactly what Assange was doing.
Dies in the darkness. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners, you kill the messenger. When the vote count is irregular, you kill the messenger. You caught spying on a senator, you kill the messenger. Removing voters from the register, you kill the messenger. Need a solid questioners, you kill the messenger. In my dreams, I walk free in the city streets. 2,500 days plus 50 weeks. Doing hard time for these WikiLeaks. Trying to bring the truth out, man, it only gets you heat. And then they gag you. You don't get to speak. And when you get the leak, they try to hit delete. The masses of the masses, they want the shit discreet. That's why my middle finger's up to these sick elites. Free speech, it's the freedom of press. Take your deepest, darkest secrets, never leave them unsaid. If I'm a thief, then I'm a thief for the people you dread. The people of the red, white and blue, you keep them in bed. Seeing the sheep, keep them asleep. Deceiving the weak, keep seeking the leaks till you cease. And I see your defeat until I'm deceased underneath a freezing red sheet. Become a dead man, then I hit the switch and release. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners, you kill the messenger. And outside my window a figure quickly creeps. They dark as night like some motherfucking chimney sweeps. Whiskey what my Mickey keeps, dying in my kidneys weak. Silence in my risky tweets is what the grand jury seeks. I'm wanting peace like 7 years in Tibet. Now rest in peace like 7 years under threat. Cause I've released 7 vaults, they upset. They under the rape sentence, but the US still insists to rest. I guess it's a sin to take the truth and disseminate. MLK to Gandhi, take aim and eliminate. And I don't say I'm great, just wanna say what's fake. But if they kill me, 1,000,000 others will take my place. The CIA's post like a knife the sharpest. All hypocrisy, lies, and heartless. They want to stop me, my life make my heart quit. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners, you kill the messenger. When the vote count is irregular, you kill the messenger. You caught spying on a senator, you kill the messenger. Removing voters from the register, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners, you kill the messenger. In my dreams, I walk free in the city streets. 2,500 days plus 50 weeks. Doing hard time for these WikiLeaks. Trying to bring the truth out, man, it only gets you heat. And then they gag you, you don't get to speak. And when you get the leak, they try to hit delete. The masses of the masses, they want the shit discreet. That's why my middle finger's up to these sick elites. Free speech, it's the freedom of press. Take your deepest, darkest secrets, never leave them unsaid. If I'm a thief, then I'm a thief for the people you dread. The people of the red, white and blue, you keep them in bed. Seeing the sheep, keep them asleep. Deceiving the weak, keep seeking the leaks till you cease. And I see your defeat until I'm deceased underneath a freezing red sheet. Become a dead man, then I hit the switch and release. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners, you kill the messenger. And outside my window a figure quickly creeps. They dark as night like some motherfucking chimney sweeps. Whiskey what my Mickey keeps, dying in my kidneys weak. Silence of my risky tweets is what the grand jury seeks. I'm wanting peace like 7 years in Tibet. Now rest in peace like 7 years under threat. Cause I've released 7 vaults, they upset. They ended the rape sentence, but the US still insists to rest. I guess it's a sin to take the truth and disseminate. MLK to Gandhi, take aim and eliminate. And I don't say I'm great, just wanna say what's fake. But if they kill me, a million others will take my place. The CIA's post like a knife the sharpest. All hypocrisy, lies, and heartless. They want to stop me, my life, make my heart quit. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners, you kill the messenger. When the vote count is irregular, you kill the messenger. You caught spying on a senator, you kill the messenger. Removing voters from the register, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners, you kill the messenger. In my dreams, I walk free in the city streets. 2,500 days plus 50 weeks. Doing hard time for these WikiLeaks. Trying to bring the truth out, man, it only gets you heat. And then they gag you, you don't get to speak. And when you get the leak, they try to hit delete. The masses of the masses, they want the shit discreet. That's why my middle finger's up to these sick elites. Free speech, it's the freedom of press. Take your deepest, darkest secrets, never leave them unsaid. If I'm a thief, then I'm a thief for the people you dread. The people of the red, white and blue, you keep them in bed. Seeing the sheep, keep them asleep, deceiving the weak. Keep seeking the leaks till you cease, and I see your defeat. Until I'm deceased underneath a freezing red sheet. Become a dead man, then I hit the switch and release. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need to silence any questioners, you kill the messenger. And outside my window a figure quickly creeps. They dark as night like some motherfucking chimney sweeps. Whiskey what my Mickey keeps, dying in my kidneys weak. Silence of my risky tweets is what the grand jury seeks. I'm wanting peace like 7 years in Tibet. Now rest in peace like 7 years under threat. Cause I've released 7 vaults, they upset. They under the rape sentence, but the US still insists to rest. I guess it's a sin to take the truth and disseminate. MLK to Gandhi, take aim and eliminate. And I don't say I'm great, just wanna say what's fake. But if they kill me, a million others will take my place. The CIA's post like a knife the sharpest. All hypocrisy, lies, and heartless. They want to stop me, my life, make my heart quit. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need to silence any questioners, you kill the messenger. When the vote count is irregular, you kill the messenger. You caught spying on a senator, you kill the messenger. Removing voters from the register, you kill the messenger. Need to silence any questioners, you kill the messenger. In my dreams, I walk free in the city streets. 2,500 days plus 50 weeks. Doing hard time for these WikiLeaks. Trying to bring the truth out, man, it only gets you heat. And then they gag you, you don't get to speak. And when you get the leak, they try to hit delete. The masses of the masses, they want the shit discreet. That's why my middle finger's up to these sick elites. Free speech, it's the freedom of press. Take your deepest, darkest secrets, never leave them unsaid. If I'm a thief, then I'm a thief for the people you dread. The people of the red, white and blue, you keep them in bed. Seeing the sheep, keep them asleep, deceiving the weak. Keep seeking the leaks till you cease, and I see your defeat. Until I'm deceased underneath a freezing red sheet. Become a dead man, then I hit the switch and release. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need to silence any questioners, you kill the messenger. And outside my window a figure quickly creeps. They dark as night like some motherfucking chimney sweeps. Whiskey what my Mickey keeps, dying in my kidneys weak. Silence of my risky tweets is what the grand jury seeks. I'm wanting peace like 7 years in Tibet. Now rest in peace like 7 years under threat. Cause I've released 7 vaults, they upset. They under the rape sentence, but the US still insists to rest. I guess it's a sin to take the truth and disseminate. MLK to Gandhi, take aim and eliminate. And I don't say I'm great, just wanna say what's fake. But if they kill me, a million others will take my place. The CIA's post like a knife the sharpest. All hypocrisy, lies, and heartless. They want to stop me, my life, make my heart quit. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor. You kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular. You kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners. You kill the messenger. When the vote count is irregular. You kill the messenger. You caught spying on a senator. You kill the messenger. Removing voters from the register. You kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners. You kill the messenger. In my dreams, I walk free in the city streets. 2,500 days plus 50 weeks. Doing hard time for these WikiLeaks. Trying to bring the truth out, man, it only gets you heat. And then they gag you. You don't get to speak. And when you get the leak, they try to hit delete. The masses of the masses, they want the shit discreet. That's why my middle finger's up to these sick elites. Free speech, it's the freedom of press. Take your deepest, darkest secrets, never leave them unsaid. If I'm a thief, then I'm a thief. For the people you dread, the people of the red, white and blue, you keep them in bed. Seeing the sheep, keep them asleep, deceiving the weak. Keep seeking the leaks till you cease, and I see your defeat. Until I'm deceased underneath a freezing red sheet. Become a dead man, then I hit the switch and release. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners. You kill the messenger. And outside my window a figure quickly creeps. They dark as night like some motherfucking chimney sweeps. Whiskey what my Mickey keeps, dying in my kidneys weak. Silence in my risky tweets is what the grand jury seeks. I'm wanting peace like 7 years in Tibet. Now rest in peace like 7 years under threat. Cause I've released 7 vaults, they upset. They under the rape sentence, but the US still insists to rest. I guess it's a sin to take the truth and disseminate. MLK to Gandhi, take aim and eliminate. And I don't say I'm great, just wanna say what's fake. But if they kill me, a million others will take my place. The CIA's post like a knife the sharpest. All hypocrisy, lies, and heartless. They want to stop me, my life, make my heart quit. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners. You kill the messenger. When the vote count is irregular, you kill the messenger. You caught spying on a senator, you kill the messenger. Removing voters from the register, you kill the messenger. Need a solace, any questioners. You kill the messenger.
Of those emails, it's like, well, what was weird about it? He had them, he put them out there. What was weird about it? We were talking about it. It was